Flat Earth Debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by OK Computer, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, you enthusiastic lot.
Anybody else here?
Nah, it's just you, Mush. It's just us. We'll get by, just you and I.
Okay.
Hello,
Yeah.
good afternoon.
Oh, good.
Good
Good morning. Good morning.
Did you have that link to Mr. Anderson by any chance, Craig?
I will see if I can put it on.
It must be. Yeah, I'll cover it. I did play it in the pre-show, so I won't play it again, but I already had clipped out a little section from Mr. Anderson's reply to me. But then when I was getting my coffee machine fixed on Monday, or picking it up more accurately from Craig, he said, "Oh, have a look at this. Have you seen this?" And I said, "I have seen it, but I don't think I've like watched it or done anything with it," not realising that I had, and I had actually already trimmed out a clip. But he played it to me, and it's him basically denying the use of a flat plane and then mumbling about how the plane must be curved, like a curved flat plane. But yeah, we'll cover that slightly shorter. We'll cover that shortly. But that's Mr. Anderson, who we covered, I know, a couple of weeks ago. Relatively small YouTuber from memory, but there we go. It was interesting to hear his responses. He also pointed out the irony of his name, right? Mr. Anderson's the guy who's been effectively blue-pilled, the guy stuck in the Matrix. How appropriate from our perspective, but how inappropriate from his. Hey, Eli. Hey, Eli. Oh, this
He's eating.
wonderful start. Alrighty then. So we're gonna drop covering Candace Owens. Keep getting the name wrong.
Candace Owens.
Candace Owens. Because we've covered her for like 3 shows, not in a row, but over the last couple of weeks we've covered her several times. So unless she does something particularly outrageous or noteworthy, we won't cover her for a bit. Plus the simps were getting a bit too excited about the whole thing yesterday, weren't they? It was all very creepy.
Yeah, it's like they've never seen a pretty girl before. What's wrong with this panel?
Yeah, I mean it is unusual in this arena, but I don't know. It was kind of creepy having to think about it in those ways. You've sent me an unpackable link, Craig. Have you not got a link to the original video? Don't worry if you haven't. Oh, I can't get rid of this off my screen now, Craig. Thanks. It's asking me what I want to open it with. Hey ho.
Morning.
Morning. While Craig's figuring that out, is there anything else that anyone wants
Going
to
on,
cover today?
guys?
Oh, okay. Say again, Chocolate.
Not saying what's going on.
Nothing. We were just looking for a video to cover, so we might cover a bit of Mr. Anderson or anything else that somebody's got to cover if they want to cover it.
So Nathan, yesterday, just wanted to say I thought it
Mr.
was
Anderson as
pretty
a
good.
Neo.
Can you hear Mush? Hold on. Go on, Mush.
Yeah. The yesterday's video was really good review. I don't think even though some of those guys thought that you attacked Candace, I don't think you did. You didn't attack her or her character or anything. You just literally pointed out her logical fallacies and misunderstandings of her scientific terminology, whatever. But I don't know if I stepped away at the moment, but like, did you even mention why the Earth is flat, how it's measured flat, and did you explain it in yesterday's review? Because I think maybe that was one thing that was forgotten. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of focus on her and the dude, and I thought it was. I realized after the show, you know what I mean, like that maybe it wasn't covered. That you didn't explain that.
Well, we broke down
Do
the
you remember?
scientific method. That's what I told the guys yesterday.
Yeah.
I said
Scientific method,
Nathan
but
did exactly what we requested.
Yeah,
right. But given that we're talking about flat Earth and measurements, you know, do you know, quote unquote, are you for 100% sure and without a doubt that the Earth is flat? You know,
Yeah,
and I don't
yes.
think we heard that. You did?
Roger, I see
Okay.
where you're going. What you're saying is we've identified an inaccuracy in her new rhetoric, let's call it. If she's left the cult of scientism, then we've had to stop her in her tracks and go, no, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Understand what science is so that you understand what you are actually rejecting and how that is not science. But then we haven't then gone on to say, this is how Earth is measured flat. No. At that particular stage of the game for her, like a lot of us, there comes a point where you just need to know what the how of the lie that you're leaving. How was I put in a position where I believed I was standing on a spinning water ball flying through a sky vacuum at god-awful speeds? How did I get to that position? Well, the science bit explains that. Well, because they lied to you using the word of science. They said science had proved it. They said the whole body of science proved we were on a spinning water ball. And in reality, science doesn't cover that subject. It's a category error. Not dealing with cause and effect. But they wanted the aspect of science that offered them empiricism in the methodology. They wanted that empiricism to be attached to their claims of us being on a ball. So they just use those words. Doesn't mean science is wrong. In terms of how Earth is measured flat, with angles to the stars, yes, we didn't cover that yesterday. We can cover that now, even though I've just said we've done 3 shows. This will now be the 4th on Candace Owens. Owens? Yeah, it is. So yeah, we've done that bit. And yeah, she's got a big reach, and obviously she's as good as anybody as an example to be using as a muse to say to everybody, Earth's measured flat with angles to the stars. But it would have been good in that show yesterday if we'd just dropped it in at some point about latitude measurement and the extrapolation of ball face from the flat Earth angles that we take to that star to give us our mapping systems, to give us the grid, to give us the circles of equal elevation that we call latitude. But we didn't. Alas,
That's
just done it
something
now.
she'll get. That's something she'll grab onto, and she will understand that because she's a sharp girl.
I don't know why. When Mush, have you found this with yesterday's show? And if you listen back to it, whenever it gets to a point of comprehension, I get told in response how smart Candace is and how easily she'll cope with the information. Like all these people are a personal shrink, and they all know how easily malleable she is in terms of information digestion.
That's not what I'm saying at all. Okay, when the 10th man was laying it out for me, it clicked, right? Because I could envision everything in my head. And I'm not nearly as sharp as Candace Owens is.
She'll never get that far.
Alrighty. Quick shout out to LJ, who says top 3 movies ever. Aliens, Predator, and Home Alone. Obviously.
No Godfather in there?
No. What a joke. You think Godfather's better than Home Alone? What kind of idiot are you? Thank you for the super chat, LJ. Okay, right. It looks like we've got Mr. Anderson through. Thank you very much, Craig. Okay. So at 11 minutes and something you said, didn't you? If you're not in front of his desk right now. I might have to listen to more than...
means is that as we move away, it's doing this. So it's always staying a circle. So it's above you, it's a circle, stays a circle. I'm talking about the orbit of the stars, all of them, that go around Polaris.
Orbits of the stars that go around Polaris. What? You've got a heliocentric system. The clue is in the title. It's sun-centric, not Polaris-centric. Latitude is Polaris-centric. Heliocentrism is sun-centric. Sounds like he doesn't understand his own religion.
Or the Southern Cross in the Southern Hemisphere. Either way, they stay circles, which means that they're moving in curves.
Circles are two-dimensional. When you say moving in curves, you mean the path that we observe the stars? Yeah, but we actually measure them, don't we? What we observe them to do is useless. What they actually do and how we measure them is actually how we get to the point where we can practically apply.
But in their paradigm, the stars are not moving. It's the globe spinning. So why is he saying the stars,
Exactly.
the stars are moving?
Right.
Good morning.
Morning.
Not straight lines.
Good morning, Tent.
Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to share something since you got a little lag here. The post, hold on one second.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, we're just in the middle of something tense, so we'll just get through this
As
before
you
we do.
move away and towards that polar region, the stars change their angle to you to stay moving in circles.
They change their angle to you. Yeah, that's a measurement of a flat plane. Their angle with respect to a flat plane.
And that means that it's not a flat celestial plane.
Well, how are you going to get an angle then?
It's a curved celestial plane.
There it is. Let's just hear it again. That's the bit that Craig pointed out to me. Let's just play it in its entirety.
Angle to you to stay moving in circles. And that means that it's not a flat celestial plane. It's a curved celestial plane. That creates a pretty big problem because
It's a curved
Yeah, for him.
It's a curved full celestial plane. A full. What's full? Was it almost saying flat plane? Because that's what it is. But it's a curved plane. An oxymoron statement that's never existed. Anyway, that was Mr. Anderson's response to me.
Well, it's on topic, what I'm going to share. So, go Master B, you'll see a series of slides there.
Wait, hold up. So his response to you, that's what that was? That It's not a flat plane, it's a curved plane? Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, gosh.
It's a curved plane because we're measuring angles. Yeah, that's his response, yeah.
Right. All right, buddy.
Tell me when you got the pictures up.
Yeah, got your ironing board,
Oh, perfect.
burn hole.
Now, you've missed this, and the panel probably has missed this. So I'm going to say it again. I've been trying to drop hints. Danny Faulkner even gave you a hint, and you missed it. He said spherical, I got to say it, trigonometry, which we know is really a wedge, not trigonometry, was first done by the Greeks to the celestial sphere. Now, don't forget that, okay? I'll tell you why. Because it has no bearing on Earth. But every time they say, oh, a spherical trig, everyone's thinking they're talking about Earth's surface. The spherical trig in their world, which to us is a wedge, because it's an oxymoron, it's not a triangle. But this spherical wedge is the concave perspective view of the stars in question by the observer from a flat plane seeing 0 to 90. Sunrise to high noon, and then if you want to, sunset. So a total of 180 straight angle that the observer is on. Now, let me break this down, but these pictures will do it quite well. So the first picture, you see this image of the imaginary celestial sphere, because that's what they call it too. And you could see that they're using the North Pole and the observer's position on Earth and the star's position on Earth. But Earth
Hold
is
on,
in the
I've got
middle.
to. Because of the diagram, it's not your fault. I've just got to. No, the actual observation point is in the center of the globe, but they've also
I'm
got
getting
it.
to that. I'm
Okay.
getting to that. Okay, trust me. Just let me have the stage for a minute.
Okay.
This is the celestial North Pole. This is the celestial star. Okay. And then they mirror it on a globe surface. So you see NP, North Pole, sub point is the star's GP. And then the person holding the sextant, it's his zenith at 90 degrees on that Earth. They take it to the center to a point. Well, this isn't the way it works. This is why this is wrong. And it can never be used for Earth's surface. That's why if you listen to them and read the books, it has nothing to do with Earth's surface. It has to do with your concave view of the imaginary celestial sphere. So we'll come back to this. Let's go to the next slide. So now it's been projected back onto the Earth's surface. As you see in this slide, they've got continents there and latitude, longitude on a ball. Joke. They got the North Pole, the South Pole, and the observer's position. This one says projected onto the celestial sphere. Interesting. Well, you'd have to be on a curved surface to project it onto something, your curved surface. But in reality, it's the other way around. It's the concave view of perspective made into a wedge called a spherical triangle, oxymoron, stupidity, and projected back on Earth as the place you are standing at as the observer and where the star's GP is, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide. This one's kind of blurry, but do you see it? It takes it to the point, as we discussed, a central point. You see that?
Yeah.
Nathan?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got the North Pole being that first wedge, the observer's zenith, and the celestial body, the star. So that top wedge is the concave view of the celestial sphere. And then it's projected down to that second wedge, which is representing the Earth's surface. But it all meets at the center at a source point. This is not celestial navigation. As you can see, they kind of give the game away here with a dotted 90-degree lines onto the flat disk surface. Do you see the 90-degree? With the dotted lines coming
Yes.
straight down?
Yeah. Again, they've put the GP onto the celestial sphere, which is in the air, and labelled it GP. But its ground position, it's down here. But they've labelled it upon the celestial sphere.
Yeah, but this slide is their undoing, because on the previous slide, go to the previous slide, it takes it to the surface of Earth and it puts it on the GP of a ball. On the slide I just showed you, the black and white one, it's going to the equatorial plane as a single source point, but that's not celestial navigation, because celestial navigation needs a zenith distance from the source of the vertex. So it can't ever, all three lines cannot come to a point to it be celestial navigation. As you can see, and I'll prove in the next slide or so, that the dotted lines straight down create a 90-degree with the observer to get the right angle triangle. Everyone see that? Next slide. The astronomical rectangle, or celestial rectangle as they call it. This is celestial navigation. Not a source point. It is the observer's 90 degrees zenith, the red, the star's 90-degree position, GP on the Earth, the blue, the angle, the hypotenuse, the black, of the angle above the horizon, and it's a 30-degree co-altitude because it's a 60-degree angle. So 60 minus 90 is 30, 30 times 60 nautical miles. You're 1,800 nautical miles from the person on the boat, on the water, to the sub point, the GP of the star, 1,800 nautical miles away. This is celestial navigation. There is no everything coming to a point. Next slide. Last slide. As shown here very clearly, the sun in this depiction is 90 degrees over the flat plane. Let's use the same numbers as the slide before. Say it's a 60-degree angle, minus that from 90. You get a co-altitude of 30 degrees, 30 times 60 nautical miles. That bottom baseline with the arrow to the GP of the sun, that's 1,800 nautical miles from the observer, the vertex, to where the sun is at that moment, that month, that day, that year, that whole thing. So then you, as the observer, can know your longitude, latitude based on knowing where the sun is with the tables and time. The azimuth is the direction of the star or sun, and it's from north in a clockwise motion. And so that's why you see the azimuth there as well. So what do you got here? You don't have a single source point because this is celestial navigation. Go back to the very first slide that Nathan caught quickly. It's all going to a source point. This is not celestial navigation. This is you, the ballers, and the fantastically imaginative mathematicians who can trick everybody, a way to create a wedge in the sky because of perspective. Because, you know, if the star's at the horizon, it's basically at 0 degrees, and when it's directly over your head, it's high noon and it's 90 degrees to you. But that creates a part of an arc of a great circle. And so what this PZX triangle is, this wedge, is portions of an arc of 3 great circles. So if you take circles and you take portions of it, you can create this wedge. And that's all they've done, and it's from perspective. But it has to go to a single source point, which is not celestial navigation, as depicted in the black and white slide. They have to tell the truth. You have to bring the GP of the star down to the flat plane you're on, and it's got to create a 90. And then when you're all done, said and done, you go to the next slide, it creates an astronomical rectangle, which is impossible on a globe surface. Any questions?
No, but I'm going to use this last diagram to sort of hopefully tie what you've just said together, although you've done a very good job already. So on this last diagram, you've got azimuth and altitude as you went through. But what you've also got, for whatever reason in this diagram, is this curve that they put in to show that this is a measured angle. Yeah? Now, again, they haven't labelled any 90s, but that's fine for what I'm about to use this diagram for. So if you imagine this is you, this is your light in the sky, and you're holding an angle measuring device to measure the angle. This is the angle. Here's the flat earth that you're using to measure that angle. There's the angle itself from the flat baseline through a protractor. So now imagine that this line is a protractor. Yeah, it's what you're using. You could mark from 0 to 180 on it. Yeah, so you've got a semicircle. That semicircle is the projected point that you see in this diagram. This semicircle is part of this wedge. So on this diagram that 10th's got, these are great, by the way. You've got the same exact. Can you pop yourself on mute, whoever that is? You can see the same triangle that 10th pointed out. This triangle here for measurement of an angle from your observer position on a flat plane to a point on the ground 90 degrees to your position. This triangle is the same as this triangle. And this triangle is useful because it's got this section through that triangle that creates this view. So now your observer position is here with no hint of the actual flat plane surface that you're measuring the angle to, and no hint of a point on the ground, the extended equatorial plane that is used with these diagrams and these globes and these celestial spheres with you in the center of them. You still need, the whole point of it, an extended celestial plane if you're looking outside of this ball, or if you just look inside the ball, you've got an equatorial plane inside this ball for you to be standing on to put a 90-degree position to it on the ground, 90 degrees to your position in the center of hell. But that triangle, which is definitely not going to be shown in this diagram, is this triangle. So you're starting to see these layers sitting around, these sections. They're just sections of a protractor, if you want to think of them in that way. They're the projected points that would be projected out first to a ball, and then out to, if you count the point where you're seeing this light in the sky, this would be a second protractor around your position. And that would be the celestial sphere. So you've got what you're seeing from the ground with a globe wrapped around you, and then the celestial sphere wrapped around that. That's this. There's you. There's the ball. There's the celestial sphere. Here's the measured angle with the actual line to the flat Earth ignored because you've got all the projected points to use. Then you can start describing an observer's zenith. What's that? The point that the line goes up through you, through your head. You can put that up here on the celestial sphere. It's like, no, you're going to be down here if you're describing zeniths. They're going to be straight up. They're not going to be coming out at any strange angles. But this is how you project a ball. This is how you take an angle measurement from the ground and convert it to PZX triangles. That's how the globe's been created. So when we say the globe is created with flat Earth measurements, this is what we're talking about. These are those measurements that will become the projected points on a sphere or on the outside edge of a celestial hemisphere. Hence these little dangling pizza slices, as 10th calls them. That's this. So, yeah, excellent way of explaining to people how the globe Earth is nothing more than a glorified protractor. That's all it actually is. You're just presenting it as the protractor view that you would see the stars through if you were standing in hell on a flat plane. Like this. Perfect. Thank you. Year of the Sextant. So yeah.
So I've got, I wasn't following exactly what you were showing, but I was listening. So, so we did this year of the Sextant. Age of the sex. I said year, and QE liked it so much. He says, make it the age and send me a slide. So I made a slide for him, the age of the sextant, because he's right. There's your 180 straight angle, and there's your protractor, and there's how celestial navigation is done. It's planar geometry. They've fooled everyone into thinking it's spherical trigonometry. Now, we just proved that the spherical trig, again, I'm going to drive this home because I keep hearing you guys attack spherical trig on only one point, which is, it's stupid because trig is three straight lines. It's not bendy lines that make a 180-degree angle in the triangle. Okay, but that's the only point you're attacking it on. Attack it on the more stronger point. Why are they using the term that doesn't match the wedge? Which is what I explained earlier. Whenever you hear them say spherical trig, don't think of Earth's surface. Think of concave view from 0 to 90 and then project it back to be the Earth's surface. Because anywhere on those straight lines, the angle remains the same. Doesn't matter where you are. So it could be infinitely far, or it could be 39, 59 from a central point. It's still going to be that angle. So What they've done in the trick is they've got everyone thinking that spherical trig is being done from Earth's surface. No, it's a perspective view, which looks like if you go to the next slide, you see that wedge? Yeah, this is it. This is that imaginary celestial sphere wedge that they call spherical trig, and then it could be over 500 instead of 180, because of the curved lines. Well, it's not trigonometry anyway, but it's a wedge. Let's call it what it is. They bring this wedge back down and say this is the ground you're standing on. But we saw on the other slide with the dotted lines that the equatorial base has to be flat for it to create the rectangular astronomical box. So you can't have it both ways. It can't be an astronomical rectangle with 490s, and at the same time, you're on a curved surface, which is really a projection of a wedge. You with me on this?
Yeah. Furthermore, as I explained here, this is quite useful to show this. So with this particular star measurement, with the wedges on a flat plane with all the pizza slices dangling through the angles that you're measuring with respect to this flat plane, 90 degrees to your position. Okay, this is quite useful to represent what's inside this globe. So if you've got a 45-degree angle measurement, let's just say for the sake of argument, you can put that plane inside the globe. What happens if you're measuring a star that's only got a 20-degree angle for the sake of argument? Yeah, well, that's going to put the GP in my diagram off the page. Yeah, you can't fit the circle in anymore for the flat plane that's going to meet that measurement at 90 degrees to the flat plane. So what happens when you've got a 20-degree angle? Well, in this diagram, you can no longer fit that angle measurement inside this globe. So that's when you have something called the extended celestial plane. So inside the sphere, you've got the equatorial plane, flat plane that you're taking the measurements from, transposing it in from curved surfaces that won't give you angles and claiming that it's because all the light's parallel. But if the angle's too big, like in this example, here's the star, what happens if the star's over here? Well, then the GP point would be outside of the globe that you've projected. Well, you just put it on the extended celestial plane then. Oh, we've still got a massive flat plane that extends out infinitely so that it can meet stars that have got massive areas of equal elevation that won't fit within the globe. So this, when it comes to star measurements that are more acute, has to be extended anyway. In other words, it simply doesn't work. It works way beyond its own parameters for its projection. You can still project those points back, because the angle measurement that comes at 20 degrees to this point just gets projected back down onto the globe here. Yeah? But its actual GP point is going to be out here on the ground. That's where its ground position will meet. Yeah? So imagine this line being much, much, much more acute, like I say, about 20 degrees. Then you're going to have a longer baseline and a greater extended plane, bigger than the globe can cope with. Anyway,
I just sent you a picture of what you're describing.
Perfect timing.
Celestially.
Yeah. I'll just carry on from here. Perfect. Thank you. Exactly. So rather than having this diagram, let's go back to it, where your equatorial plane can definitely fit within a globe. When you get to this diagram, it won't. So if you're measuring, again, from hell, not that anybody's standing in there, you're just justifying it after measuring off a surface that won't give you angles and saying, oh, well, all the light comes in parallel, so I'll put it inside because it's okay to do so. So it works. Okay, so we're inside the globe and we're measuring an angle over here. So if you take your triangle, let's get back to it. You've got your triangle meeting the flat plane at 90 degrees to your position. Okay, so let's do that over here. So we take an angle, it goes to this star up here, 90 degrees down. Oh, it's nowhere near the globe. It's miles away from it, outside of the flat plane that is required inside the globe. So you need an extended equatorial plane. This is Earth. This is what we actually deal with. This is how it actually presents itself. This is how we actually measure it. This bit is nothing more than a glorified protractor. You're standing here measuring through a protractor to a point that you can see in the sky. From hell? No. From the center of a protractor on a massive extended flat plane. Earth is flat. "86 people watching. Please share the show. Smash the share button if you've not done so already. It's only a couple of clicks and you can put it on your favourite social media site. So if you're a fan of Bebo or MySpace, the link will be there. Just click on Bebo. send it straight to it.
Now you have to trim that out and send that to Candace Owens.
Not everything we do. I started the show by saying we've done 3 shows on Candace. Great. But we don't have to make everything that we now do tailored to this person.
No. I'm not saying that. Because what we wanted yesterday was a clear explanation of how Earth is measured flat, and we didn't get it. So all I'm saying is maybe trim that out and send that to her.
Okay. I'm sure somebody will, but Nathan, go to the next 2 slides.
Okay.
So you see 3 circles intersecting at a point where the observer is when he sights with his sextant 3 stars, and you got 3 circles of equal altitudes. And from the center of those circles to the observer, which is depicted by the red dot, is the radius. And that would be, like in that previous slide of the rectangle, 1,800 nautical miles. One of these circles would be 1,800 nautical miles from the center to the observer. But because someone else could be on the other side of the circle at the same time, using the nautical almanac and sighting the star from that position, it's 1,800 nautical miles flat for that person. So that's 3,600 nautical miles of flat disk
You're going too quick.
circle on Earth.
Stop. So what 10th is saying, because it's not easy to understand when you've just got a couple of circles overlapping. Here's your position. And from here to, let's say, S3 is going to be the equivalent of this measurement. So this is the circle that's being shown from bird's eye view. And this is the angle measurement that you've taken on a flat Earth to get that circle. Yeah, this is your circle of equal elevation. Okay, so let's just go back to that diagram 10th had. So that's that circle of equal elevation. What 10th is saying is, this is you measuring this star, S3. But if there's someone over here, they can also be measuring star S3. And a different star over here that overlaps with their position. Excuse me. So all of this whole square, for all of the observers on any of the points on these circles that are measuring these 3 stars, is extended in all directions flat, so that it can work for this guy with S3 and S2 and potentially S4 over here for him, flat for the 90 to S3, flat for the 90 to S2, and flat to the 90 to S4. Along with this diagram that shows this observer measuring S1, flat to his position, 90 degrees at S1 to his position, flat to S3, 90 degrees to his position, and flat to S2. And that's true for anybody on the radius of this circle in all directions. That's why you end up with this. A massive extended flat Earth with a protractor plonked in the middle. That's all this is.
Yes. In fact, go to the next slide.
Yep.
Which is one of the videos on celestial navigation, and you see that it's planar geometry. They have the equatorial plane, 180, straight angle. They have a tangent plane, 180, straight angle. And they have a artificial 180 in the air, in the airplane with the bubble sextant, another straight angle. They are measuring the sun and its position relative to planar geometry. The dingleberry representing Earth doesn't exist in reality. This is how they're fooling everybody. And the last slide will tie it in perfect with the previous slide of the 3 circles of equal altitude. Take over here, because you know what to do here, Nathan.
So here's the 3 circles of equal elevation from a bird's eye view, and here's them side on. So here's the same 3 circles. So obviously, as I've just described, 90 degrees to S1, 90 degrees to S2, and 90 degrees to S3 from this observer's position. And again, if you imagine that you've got a protractor that's going essentially through all of these positions around your observer point along the ground to the ground positions, if you drew a semicircle around all three of these positions, you'd end up with something like, where's the original one? There it is. This. So you end up with a protractor wrapped around you, because this is the observer point. So all the globe is the protractor that you measured the angles through. It's obviously more complicated than that, in they're converting it through Haversine to get to this position, so they can do the conversion to represent it in this way with points on a globe. Mute whoever's in Discord or G+, please. To give you a protractor base view. And that's all we've ended up with on the last slide. You can't actually measure the angles though. If your surface is curved, you won't have 90 degrees to your position. Yeah, you need to start with and end up with angles that are representative of points on the ground, representative of the angle measurements to the stars in the sky, and in the case of globe Earth, with a globe Earth redundant or surplus to requirements through all of those positions.
Excuse me, but what's Haversine? What is that?
Haversine is a transformative mathematical equation that's essential with the PZX triangle for conversion, which is what we just covered. It has nothing to do with Earth's surface. It has to do with a transformative math, and it's required in the PZX formula of the North Star, the star, and the observer, creating that wedge. Last slide, and then we can just talk a little bit until I have to go. You see the last slide, Nathan?
Yes.
This is what they've hijacked, is perspective. I remember back in the day when I first started investigating the subject matter, I ran across a show and someone was asking a veteran flat earther, of all the things that they've argued about and back and forth and debates, what stands out as the one most important thing? And this person at that time said, perspective. And I agree. As you can see with that image, the way you see is like a protractor. And they've hijacked it. But we can use it as well for how God has designed the eyes and how it works. Because as Mitchell from Australia showed the drone going away, or we can see an airplane going away, or we can see a luminary like a sun or a moon or a star going away, looks like it's going down and touching the horizon. But it's really not. It's really the same distance above the plane Earth as it was above your head. Just like the cloud 10,000 feet above your head is 10,000 feet over there, more than likely. But it looks like it's touching. Well, that's perspective. So this is their magic trick to confuse us with perspective and create a wedge, which is not even celestial navigation because it goes to a central point. Celestial navigation is called an astronomical rectangle with 4 90s. That is celestial navigation, and that you need a flat plane.
Perfect. Great presentation. As was echoed from the chat. So shout out to Flat Out Truth. It says, amazing info. Can we get these slides somewhere? I'm sure you can. Thank you for the super chat. Can someone post 10th man slides in Master B, please? One of the team. Hopefully we'll get that distributed out to the server, and then they'll be undoubtedly distributed out, divvied out amongst everybody. So yes, I'm sure someone will stick it in the server for you. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, good stuff.
Well, this is like old times.
It is like old times, isn't it, Neil?
Well, let's see how old it is. When they refer to spherical triangle, what are they actually saying, Neil?
I take QE's position. It's an oxymoron. There is no spherical trigonometry.
I understand.
Way to completely ignore 10th's entire presentation. yes, you can take that route. It's oxymoronic. It's just trig. Yes, that's true. That still stands. However, it's using just trig to project the points through a protractor based on a flat plane that's justified with parallel light rays coming to the surface that you can't get angles from, so that you can put it inside a globe to an equatorial or celestial plane that you can take angles from and can put GPs on the flat plane that is. So when they say, well, we're using spherical trig, well, you're converting from a flat plane measurement of angles to stars to project those points up onto a globe that you're no longer standing on. You're standing in. That's what it actually does. So when you say what's Haversine, the conversion, that's what we're talking about. This is that conversion.
Is that where I got the pie in the sky from?
I don't know, Neil, but it does kind of look like
Yeah.
a pie slice. I will grant you that. When you're taking a section out that is essentially a wedge from a 3D protractor that you've created based on positions on a flat circle that isn't even depicted, it does kind of look like a pie slice being taken out. From
Either
hell.
one works, Neil. It's just that next time you hear spherical triangle or spherical trigonometry from a baller, say no. A more correct description is spherical wedge or spherical pie slice.
I think that's what I got that saying, pie in the sky. It's too obvious to me.
A face in plane geometry is a flat surface. The Bible mentions face of the earth 29 times. So there's your biblical proof of flat earth. Pretty
Yeah,
loose.
and the circle
So
and the
far,
circle
hold
of the earth is
Hold
also
on.
two-dimensional.
Hello. Pretty loose so far, but thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Go ahead, Tim.
Sorry.
Yeah, and
No,
just
sorry.
really quickly, guys.
Sorry. No, I was
Just to
saying
be
that
quick,
circle of the earth and in the Bible is also two-dimensional. So
yeah, I was gonna say the slides are available in Discord. So for all you guys that want 10-man slides, just join Discord and you can download them easy.
some of those I added my descriptions like vertex, pointing where a vertex was, but unless you could tell I made one, all of them came from the internet, from celestial navigation sites. So do your search, you'll find more.
Yeah, thanks again for the super chat. Like Righteous just said, if you did want to join the Discord server, there is a link obviously below this video, as I say in every single introduction. And yeah, it's not a particularly arduous task to join the Discord server. Perhaps take part in some of the discussions that we're actually having daily. Welcome, Adam. Hello, Adam.
Afternoon, everyone. Hope you're okay.
Yeah,
Nice
very well,
presentation.
very well.
I was just catching that.
Good presentation, wasn't it?
Yeah. Who was it said like the old days? Yeah. Nice to have you back, Tim. Very nostalgic, that.
Hello, Adam. Nice to hear you too.
It's good to have these knowledge bombs. These, I was going to say chunks, and then I thought, no, wedges of information for people to digest. Because
Yeah.
we verbally talk about it. I will often describe the protractor that's been hijacked and turned into a globe. And it's all well and good describing that verbally or debating it with somebody that's presumably got a reasonable handle on how they're going to overcome that in some way. But if you're just trying to explain it to an audience, you do need nice diagrams. Because it's not a simple subject, is it? Far from it. This is about as complex as it gets, I would say. Well, Coriolis could be as complex. Toss it between the two. But at least with this, unlike Coriolis, all Coriolis does is undo a baseless assertion that Earth, the ground we're standing on, is turning. Utterly absurd. It doesn't actually do us any favours. Whereas at least with this, yeah, you can appreciate that you're gonna have to take in a certain amount of information and comprehend a certain amount of stuff that may be elusive to you at the start. But once you've heard it a few times and seen it in a few different diagrammatical formats, it starts to sink in. And then you can start appreciating how Earth is actually measured flat. And how the globe came from those measurements. So it's critically important. Like I say, unlike Coriolis, which I detest as a subject.
I might add that next time,
Coriolis is more fun.
Not more fun.
go on.
What do you mean more fun? What are you getting out of it?
It's more fun.
What are you getting out of it? You're proving Earth's flat at the end of that fun.
No, but it's more fun. That's not the fun part. The fun part is listening to them scramble as to try to tell us whether it's spinning, whether we have these two reference frames, or whether we don't. That's the fun part.
The only morsel of usefulness that you can take from it is that in order to make the positive baseless assertion that we are turning, then that description unequivocally requires a flat plane to describe it. You're talking about a non-inertial turning reference frame. It's a plane of reference that you're describing. So, like all things, they need an axis of rotation. Same thing. You need a plane of reference to describe that axis. It's perpendicular to it. All those planes that they need, they haven't got. But that's the only morsel that you can extract out from non-inertial and inertial turning reference planes.
I need to make sure this is driven home. Next time you hear spherical triangle, say, no, how about astronomical rectangle or celestial rectangle? Type that in Google. You're going to get a box with you're going to get a box with 4 90s.
Or this, which gives the illusion that the line's bent. So in the diagram, this has come from a navigation manual, and the diagram includes a curve, and they put 90 rather than the typical way of doing it with a box. There's deception afoot. So they make it look like the co-altitude's got a curve and the ground's got a curve, but yet you're taking angles from straight lines and putting 90s on them. So there's always going to be deception afoot, isn't there, as we've found. I mean, you use that, you spin that to your advantage, 10th. I will get there, I promise. You spin that and go, look, these are your manuals. These are your globe manuals showing us how we do it. And they're claiming Earth's a sphere when they do it with a 90 on a flat plane with the co-altitude matching the zenith distance. It is flat ipso facto in this diagram. But because it's a globe manual, that does have some negative impact on how they actually present it, doesn't it? Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, of course. In fact, imagine going to your geometry teacher and drawing a right angle with a curved bottom line adjacent.
Not even that, Temp. It's look at the 90. How it's signified on the page. That's not maths. You don't do a 90 with a curve. A 90-degree angle is drawn with a square in the corner, not an arc, to signify it's a 90. You don't put an arc and then label it 90. You don't even have to label it. You just put a square in the corner, which tells you it's 90.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I've covered that viewpoint before. I'm just coming from a different angle here, pun intended. Imagine going to a geometry teacher and saying, he says, draw a right angle. And you draw a curved baseline or adjacent. And he said, no, come back, draw a right angle. So by them putting 90 and on purpose not putting the box and on purpose doing a curved co-altitude in the sky that matches the adjacent on Earth's surface, they're in trouble because they put 90 there. Even though they didn't do the box and the rest, you can't have a 90 on a sphere. The distances are enormous because the maximum nautical miles on one circle of equal altitude is 10,800 nautical miles. A flat. Because if you're an operator of a sextant and you have the maximum distance is 5,400 nautical miles, because 90 times 60 is 5,400 nautical miles, that's just the radius to you. But some guy on the other end could be doing this. So that's 10,800 nautical miles. The circumference of that circle it's all flat.
Wow.
Just bear with me a second,
one
Ted.
more time, Sam.
Hold on one sec.
Please,
Chocolate, hold on. Chocolate, just one sec. Just for the audience's benefit, I found a better diagram, so you've actually got it in the G+ Hangout now. That's what I'm going to cover now. So on this diagram, you've got the altitude and the azimuth, or elevation and azimuth as is described in this diagram. And I use this to show how the protractor that you're measuring the angle through gets turned into one of the surfaces, that's either celestial or globe surfaces of the sphere. Okay? In this diagram, it makes it even more clear. So in this diagram, you've got the star, you've got a plane that's extending out three-dimensionally, kind of represented by these lines. It's a bit crap in that regard, but there we go. But you can see that you're measuring a star with an angle to that ground and then back to your position. That's the altitude angle that's being represented. And it's being represented through this, although it's not labelled as such, protractor. So when I show you this diagram of the triangle, and then I flick back to this diagram that's got the pizza leaves, you can now more easily understand how this section of the projected PZX triangle is merely this section of an angle measurement with respect to a plane. Now, by chance, this has got two lines inside it, so I can then compare that and say, well, if you imagine, although it would be reference to the star, that this is the celestial sphere and this is the globe inside it, and then I flick back to what 10th originally started with, get back to the origin point, rounding us all up nicely, to this, where you can then see that protractor of the globe inside a flat plane that's invisible from your observer point, and then a second protractor wrapped around that, albeit completely circular rather than semicircular. So that is essentially how the conversion happens. This is what you end up with. You in hell measuring angles with respect to a plane to stars with 90 degrees to points that don't exist inside globes. That originates with this angle measurement with respect to the star, 90 degrees to your position on a flat plane, with two semicircles, one being the globe and one being the celestial sphere wrapped around that. I think we've done a really good job today, 10th. Mostly you.
Gotta give them credit. That's pretty ingenious how they did that.
Yeah.
Can I ask Tom real quick? Just can you go over that distance that it's possible to be again? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
See, that's one of those things that like punched me in the face when I realized it. You know what I mean?
That's it punched me in the face when I realized it. So we got
Me too.
We got two black guys, you and me. Nathan, I put two other slides, so I'll explain it with my last two slides. Do you see them?
Yes.
So circle of equal altitude for the observed altitude, circle of equal altitude for the computed altitude. This is the corrections you do to make sure that by the time you do your high divide correction and get your eyeball, like the site reduction tables already do on the surface of the water, you have an acute angle, now an obtuse angle, a right angle, and then the box. So you see the GP's in the middle, and the person with the sextant is on the outside in the circumference of the circle there. So if someone was on the other side of Earth, sighting that same star at that same time, that radius line is from the center of that circle to the first observer with the sextant, but it would also be a diameter of the circle. So then that whole diameter is flat. So if you go to the next slide, which is a geometric slide or geometry slide, parts of a circle, you can see the diameter, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that center is the radius to the edge. But if you say, what is the full, you'd have to draw a diameter and say that's a 180 straight line on the two-dimensional circle. And right there it shows the radius is from the center to the edge, but the diameter is edge to edge, which means that in celestial navigation, you got a circle of equal altitude. And if it's the maximum, 5,400 nautical miles, because that's all it can go to, 0 to 90, okay? Then that's 10,800 miles of nautical miles diameter of that circle. It's only 5,400 nautical miles for the one guy with the sextant because of the radius from the center to him. This is why celestial navigation can only work on a flat Earth. This is why it's planar geometry. That's why they had 3 180 lines with a dingleberry stuck in there to fool you, but they don't use the dingleberry.
I was going to go and get a dingleberry diagram, but there isn't one. So when we say
I gave you 3 lines.
Oh yeah, is that dingleberry? Yeah, I suppose it is. Yeah, okay. So when we say dingleberry, this line here that's tangential to the surface of a sphere Earth, I explained earlier when I said they justify moving the angle to the celestial plane by suggesting that these parallel light rays from a very distant star or sun are a justification to move all of those parallel light rays down to the middle of the protractor where they originated. Yeah? In other words, so they can match up with what we actually see when we're looking at the star. However, what we will end up using is the protractor view. You'll end up in hell to use the protractor of the globe surplus to requirements because it's merely a representation of these points that are already plotted on the celestial sphere. That's why I say it's surplus to requirements. It's not redundant. What you're using is the flat plane, the point on it that the star is above its ground position, and that's it. Now, if you've already got the celestial sphere view, you're not measuring the stars anymore. You don't need the protractor view. Not that it is. It's have a sign converted to project back onto it to pretend that you're standing on it to measure angles that you can't get because they won't be angles and they'll have to be moved to hell anyway. But this is the dingleberry. So this line in the middle with an Earth dangling beneath that tangential plane that doesn't give you an angle. That's what we call dingleberry, as opposed to this, which, depending on the view you get, either equatorial, that's the plane inside the globe, or celestial, the extended plane that we've got in this diagram. We call this the globe burger. In case you haven't figured out why, obviously it's got a bun on top, a bun on bottom, and a extended meaty plane in the middle, rather than dingleberry, which is dangling beneath. Yeah? I hope that terminology is clear. Anything else? Any more? No. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels. And a massive thank you to you for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley once again. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show, and I will see you all in the next video.